So last video, I talked about going to Greece and making my traveling wrap dress. And then I mentioned that I hand sewed another dress. That's what this video is all about. Hand sewing a dress while visiting the country of Greece. The inspiration for this dress came about when I was wanting to create some sort of dress inspired by Greece. And I had originally planned to make one for my sister and then also make one for me. And I was really envisioning white with gold accents. For my sister's dress, I was planning on replicating a dress from the movie One Night with the King. It is based on the story of Esther. And there's this dress that she wears when she goes and reads for King Xerxes. And it's just a really beautifully simple dress. And my sister had actually gathered the supplies to make this dress herself several years ago. All of my sisters in my family sew, and there was a point where we would sew replicas or be inspired by movie costumes and all that. So we all had that phase in our life, and for me, it's just stuck around the longest. So she had picked up the fabric, but had never made it. So I knew for hers that I wanted to make that replica for her to wear. As for my dress that I wanted to make, that never happened. I did not have enough time. And so I just made this one for my sister to wear. So I pulled out the supplies that she had gathered, and she found this gold trim, which is really close to the original trim that was used in the movie. Now, just a caveat here, these costumes in this movie are not really historically accurate. Yes, I think they could have been. I'm not an expert on this era of history. I'm really no expert on any era of history, but particularly medieval. I don't know much about it, but they are pretty, and I've always enjoyed the movie because of the costumes and the storyline, of course. But in this particular example, there's sequins in the trim, and that would probably not be very accurate. But anyway, she found a trim that looks very close, so I was really excited about that. But the fabric that she had gathered was a chiffon. And as much as I enjoy chiffon, I didn't feel like it was going to be the right fabric for this dress, and my sister agreed with that too. So I ended up setting aside that chiffon and rummaging through my fabric stash to see if I had any cream white fabrics that could work well. And I came upon this yardage of fabric that I had bought for another project that never happened. I have a lot of those that just never happened. So this fabric was purchased from Dharma Trading Company, favorite company of mine to get like white fabrics and stuff. It's a great place to find random fabrics. They carry this raw silk, or it's also called silk noil, and it's a very unique silk. It feels almost like a linen and cotton and wool kind of. It's a really unique feel. It's not like shiny and luxurious. It's like a hardy but soft silk, and it has a beautiful drape. It's got some texture to it, and from what I could find, it's made, or at least used to be made, then that's what the noil comes from, is like remnants from weaving silk, like the little ends and stuff. As far as that was like a quick research that I did, and that's what it seems. So it's like kind of slubby / like has texture to it. And so anyway, it just felt like a right like medieval fabric, and it was also silk, so it was kind of luxurious still. And so I pulled that out, and it was gonna be perfect. So I went ahead, and now we have all the supplies we need, because this is a very basic design. It's trim and fabric. And it's thanks to Vivaya for sponsoring today's video. Vivaya is not just a shoe company, they are also a brand who is dedicated to creating stylish, comfortable, and eco-friendly footwear. From flats to heels to boots, they make them all with recycled material. Each pair of shoe makes use of 6 plastic bottles salvaged from city waste and the ocean. Plus, all their packaging is made of 100% recycled cardboard. These shoes are also made with a zero waste process, so none of the already recycled material is being wasted. This is all possible thanks to their unique 3D knitted design. This style of shoe creation adds a fun flair to your wardrobe with a unique texture. It's the perfect combination of comfort, function, and style, but also sustainability. Also, something I've noticed with the bendability and knitted aspect of these shoes, They would be a great travel shoe. You could just throw them in your suitcase and then bring them out and they're gonna look great. And you can do all the touristy things with comfortable and stylish shoes. So be sure to check out these shoes and more at vivaya.com and explore their many designs and use the code MAY15 for 15% off your order. Again, that's MAE15 for 15% off at vivaya.com, or use the link in my description and start walking in style and eco-friendly fashion. As for the style of this dress, it is a wrap dress, and from my estimation, it's a 3-piece base part of the dress and then 2 sleeves. It's an open sleeve just tacked above the wrist and a little below the shoulder. So in total, it's a 5-piece dress, and you have some unique darts, if you could call them that. There's 2 on each of the shoulders, and then there's 3 or 4 that are horizontally placed at the waist. So they're not like vertical darts, they're horizontal, wrapping around the body, almost all the way to the back, from what I can tell. The pictures, like watching the movie, it's hard to tell much details, but taking some screenshots, that's my best estimation of what's happening. And so I just went ahead and went with that. So before I headed off to Greece, I did manage to make up a quick mock-up of this dress design. Because of the darts, I knew I had to just play around with it and see what happens. So I did that, and it looks kind of crazy and not nice on, but I could see where it was going. I could see where the pattern was going with these darts. And so I just decided to go with it. And so I just cut out my pieces of fabric, and I did allow like extra seam allowances just to be able to do the fitting process along the way, because my sister was coming with me and everything. So with the pieces cut out and thread, needle, scissors, and the trim thrown in my bag, I went ahead and left for Greece. So from here, we don't have a lot of detailed sewing shots of what's happening, but there's not much happening, so I can just explain how this dress came together. The 3 panels of the dress are joined with felled seams. So I just first sewed up the seam with a running back stitch, and then from there, I trimmed down one side of the seam allowances, fold the raw edge over that, and then over again, and then sewed that line down. And that contains the raw edges. These seams were sewn at various random locations wherever our trip landed us. So I tried to bring my camera along whenever I planned to sew and just grab some shots of the locations that I was at. And this particular one, my camera tripod gave out and it bit the sand. And I don't know if because of this fall, my camera started having issues, but after a few days of using my camera decided to start having some major focus issues. So from then on, it was just grabbing my phone and taking some videos. And also my sister helped me sew up some of these seams while we were driving. Once I got those 3 seams sewn up and we now had a base part of the dress, I could start doing the darts. So here's where my sister tried it on and I just pinned the darts as I thought they should be. It still doesn't look quite flattering, but again, I could envision what was happening. And so I just went ahead and started sewing up those horizontal waist darts and also the 4 shoulder darts, 2 on each side. Before attaching the trim, I also hemmed up all the edges where the gold trim was going to be placed, because I wanted that edge to be clean and secure before I went and covered it with the gold trim. From there, I just went ahead and started applying the gold trim. To attach this gold trim, I brought along some gold metallic thread and then just did a quick stitch to secure it along this entire edge. Once all the trim was placed on the proper edges, I then attached the sleeves to the dress, and we are almost done. The only thing left to do was the hem, and this was done on a car ride up to this beautiful location of ancient Corinth. This place was the most stunning location. I loved this part. I hiked up all the way to the top, and you got this beautiful panoramic view, and it was one of my favorite places in Greece. From here, the dress was pretty much done, and we actually headed to one of the islands. And from there, I had planned to take photos in the city on this island, and then maybe spend some time in Athens taking photos once we planned to head back there for a couple days before we left for good. But we had a circumstance where we had to change our plans and move to a different island. From there, we were just gonna quickly get back to Athens and then catch our flight home. And so I knew there wasn't gonna be any time in Athens to do any. And the only really picturesque place in the island that we ended up was this building that worked fairly okay. It wasn't quite what I had pictured for these finished shots, but it ended up working really well. And we got out late, and it ended up being dark by the time we were doing these photos. But it was perfect because the moon was out and it was bright enough in the location to make the pictures turn out well enough. But the moon and the night atmosphere just really helped to bring in the whole idea that this is a replica from One Night with the King. In our quick transition of islands, I threw the dress in one of my bags, and when I pulled it out, it was completely wrinkled, like so bad. And from my quick search of the room, I could not find an iron or steamer or anything. And so my last resort was to put it in the bathroom, turn on the shower, high heat, and just let it sit in the steamy room for a while. That helped. It wasn't the best solution, but it helped. And then after that, after the video photo shoot, we came back and someone had found a steamer. So that was fun. But anyway, the shots are a little bit wrinkly. And there you have it, my adventure of sewing a dress completely in Greece. It was a really fun project because it was so simple, and it was kind of a mindless sewing, if that makes sense. And so I was able to just bring it along at these random locations and just sew a straight seam or whatever. I hadn't planned to sew it while I was in Greece, but because of my very tight timing leading up to leaving, It just needed to happen that way. And I'm really glad that it did. I'm really grateful that I got that experience. So also, this is my very first project that I completely hand sewed, and I was very proud of that fact. This is several months from coming back from Greece. I actually just completed another project where I spent over 100 hours hand sewing a costume, and those will be the next videos coming out. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And as always, a huge thank you to my Patreon and YouTube members for supporting me along this season. And I look forward to all the coming projects this year. And thank you for watching. And as always, go out there and learn, create, and inspire.